Van Deeb, a dynamic leader with decades of experience building companies and crushing sales. He's been there and done that.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. My name is Van Deeb.
Inspiring audiences across the country to do it too. Here's Van.
Welcome, everybody, to the Van Deeb podcast. Man, I'm glad you joined me today because I'm pretty fired up. I've got a guest today that has also been a very, very close friend of mine for, almost 30 years. Welcome, Gil Cohen.
Thanks, Van.
I'm glad you're here, Gilly Boy.
We have been friends a long time.
We have been friends a long time. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history about my buddy Gil. So Gil was born and raised in New Jersey. He's been in Omaha, Nebraska since 1992. Gilly is the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Omaha Magazine. I know a lot of my listeners are very familiar with Omaha Magazine, but they're a subscription-only magazine going to like 25,000 plus homes and businesses. The magazine is accepted into the City and Regional Magazine Association. Matter of fact, the only magazine, isn't that right, Gil?
The only magazine in Nebraska accepted into that association, which puts us in the same class as the St. Louis Magazine, 5280 in Denver, the Washingtonian, D Magazine in Dallas. So pretty elite class.
And tell us a little bit before I continue about the contests, that you guys have that keeps all Omaha businesses, trying to do better. I really like seeing this competition.
Is this the Get to Know Van Deeb contest?
No.
I think you're talking about Best of Omaha.
Best of Omaha. But you know what it does? It makes businesses work harder. It really does.
Well, it's Omaha's really longest running and most legitimate consumer to business contest in Omaha. So each year from July 1st through August 20th, we ask voters to cast their vote for their favorite businesses in Omaha, anywhere from auto body repair to chimichanga to veterinarian. And it's really a great recognition program, and it's a way for these voters to thank thank the businesses that they're voting for taking care of them, but also a way for these businesses who win to get recognition out there and saying, hey, you could ask 10 businesses, or you could ask 10 customers to thank you or to recommend your business, and you know how that goes. A lot of times it doesn't.
It's great street cred.
Yeah,
I remember back when I had
way.
Deeb Realty, Gilly, when I had Deeb Realty, and we won Best of Omaha for something, or one of the levels. We put that on everything. Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal for the city of Omaha.
Yeah, it certainly is. And like I said, the legitimacy of the contest and the opportunity for businesses to have people recommend their business. And
right.
it's not an easy contest to win. No. There's 28,000 businesses in the Omaha metro area. And
I didn't know there were that many.
Absolutely. And in any one year, less than 3% are Best of Omaha winners. So when you look at the odds of winning Best of Omaha, there are about 750 winners out of those 28,000 businesses. So
it's funny that
it's an elite class.
It's funny when you say it, 28,000 businesses. When I travel and I speak to companies throughout the United States, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're from Nebraska. What kind of farm did you grow up on?" And I'm like, "Dude, this is a cosmopolitan city. We're 1 million plus people in a 5-county area, and growing. We're growing at 1% a year in a 5-county area. Mm-hmm. Gilly, that's 10,000 people a year that we're growing, and 28,000 businesses. That's a lot of business being done in one community.
Yeah, absolutely. It's billions of dollars of economic revenue that come in, and and a lot of it is some of it is tourism.
Right.
Tourism in Omaha itself brings in about 12 million visitors a year. Now, this is an abnormal year, obviously.
You mean, and that includes College World Series?
College World Series, Berkshire Hathaway, swim trials. Just in the Omaha market, $1.5 billion is spent by tourists in Omaha.
Did not know that.
It's the third largest it's the third largest revenue producing industry in the state, tourism. So.
And Gilly, before we get started talking about our topic of reaching our sales quotas, I do want to also add in talking about you is, you're involved in so many charities. I remember when you did locks.
Thanks to your mom. I probably wouldn't have gotten involved in anything if I had never met your mom. Wouldn't have met you probably.
Let's tell our audience that story. So my mom was in Sioux City,
right?
And it was back in '93, and she came back to me with a business card, and I had just moved back to Omaha. She came back to me in 1993 with a business card of Gil Cohen, and she goes, "Honey, I really want you to meet this guy. He's a great guy, and I think you should give him a call." And I called you, and I ended up coming to your office, and the rest is history.
We've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
And have both worked on a lot of different boards, a lot of different great organizations, Children's Hospital, Diabetes Foundation, Cystic Fibrosis.
We did. And you're still doing a ton, and I think it's pretty darn cool. And you're on the advisory board at Offutt Air Force and the Heartland Board of Directors with wings over the Heartland Board of Directors. It's just cool, and I know you're involved with the Omaha Business Ethic Alliance. It's just cool, all the things that you do, and I'm one of these guys that I've always, and I was telling Pat before you got here today, Gil, I said, I always tell Gil to run for mayor because he knows everybody.
I tell Van I couldn't take the pay cut.
And he knows everybody, and the cool thing is everybody I know that knows Gil just loves him. So, Gil, you and I talk business often, and one of the things that amazes me is we always are talking about goal setting and accomplishing our goals and all that at our work, and you seem to hit and I don't know if you want your company to know, but you hit your sales quotas so early. Now watch, after they're going to hear this podcast, they're going to say, let's raise, well, you're going to raise your own.
Yeah. Well, I'm not ashamed to ever put my goals up. In fact, anybody in my office can come down, any of the salespeople, anybody that come in my office and see my team sales goals daily. I post them up there starting the first of the year, and just continue to add to it wherever we're at. So I'm never ashamed to tell anybody in the office, because they all have that same opportunity. It's not just me, but everybody in the office has the same opportunity to reach those sales goals too. I want them to see what the potential is for them out there. So,
well, traditionally there's 4 types of sales quotas. There's profit, volume, activity, and cost. And one thing that I think that is overlooked when we're looking at our quotas and our sales goal is I think at the top of that list ought to be building relationships.
Oh, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today too with you, is the relationship building. I've been with Omaha Magazine going on 14 years now, and I've had clients for the past 14 years, and I would like to think they stay with me because their advertising and their marketing dollars are well spent with the magazine. But that never would have happened had we not established some type of relationship together, a trust factor, and the fact that what I tell them is actually true, and just building that relationship. And you know how important that is too. I mean, even in real estate, relationship is huge. Now, obviously, people don't buy a new house every year,
right,
as opposed to renewing their advertising every year. So I get to touch those people quite a few times during the year, and then over the 14 years, quite a few times too. But you still have to have that relationship with people.
But don't you think, Gil, that a big part of the reason why people continue to do business with you is because they trust you? I mean, you said that earlier, but I think that when I think of the way you do business, is you're not the type to say, advertise your business in this publication of all the publications that you have. unless you feel like they're truly going to benefit.
I've said no to people. I had one in particular. I won't mention the name of the business, but they said, "Well, we'll do an ad with you just because we like you." And I said, "No, don't do that. It's don't if that's the case. If you're going to make an investment and do something with this, it's got to work for you. It's not to my benefit. It's got to be to your benefit, because ultimately, if it's your benefit, then it does benefit me."
But that is the ultimate in sales 101. That is the ultimate goal, to not have to go out and beg for new business every year, is to continually work your past and current clients so they don't become, so you don't
former clients.
Yeah, so they don't become former clients. But they have to believe in you. And if what you're selling isn't working for them, it's going to be difficult to get them to renew.
Oh, absolutely. And our type of advertising is not easy to track. I mean, we're branding an image. And so we have to sell on a whole different level in terms of the 2 issues of Omaha Magazine. If I have a restaurant or retail facility and I can say, hey, I can put you in, 22,000 hotel rooms, is a tourist or is somebody coming into Omaha looking to shop or looking to dine, is that a value to you? And yes, it potentially would be. Or maybe Omaha Magazine itself wouldn't necessarily be a benefit to them. So you got to show them all the opportunities, and you got to ask them what their pains are. You got to ask them what they're trying to accomplish. Obviously they're trying to stay in business and they're trying to make a buck, trying to reach a lot of different people out there. But yeah.
So when you're looking at your sales quotas and you know what you have to have that you've given yourself for your goals for the year, how many, I know you're going to contact them a minimum of once a year to get them to renew, but are you always trying to find ways to stay in touch with them on other ways, not just asking them to renew?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, from the day that I meet somebody, whether it's a new appointment or a renewal, we're constantly working with them. My top-notch assistant, Alicia, is constantly Alicia. She's constantly in contact with them throughout the year on their ads, when we're collecting the ads, if they want to make any changes. If they happen to be Best of Omaha winners. I'm out there delivering their Best of Omaha banners or their Best of Omaha plaques, things like that. I make a concerted effort.
That's a big word, but yeah, we can go with
New
it.
Jersey.
Yeah.
to frequent their places, to have them see me. I think that's important too. It's not just to go out and now, obviously, you selling a house, you're not going to stop over somebody's house every day.
No, unless they have food
coffee.
Laying out or something.
Exactly. So I do try to make sure that I frequent my clients, because I think it's important for them to see that that I'm there too. So
Gilly, not everybody is going to have your characteristics and all of the great salesmanship qualities that you have. For the average person that's trying to accomplish what you're experiencing, when do you think is the best time? And I'm going to tell you what I would tell my salespeople that I was fortunate enough to work with is, I say take Thursday. Take Thursday and do your goals. No, take November and December and really spend a lot of time thinking about the following years, what your goals are, what your sales, what quotas you've given yourself, because a lot of people that are independent contractors, they have to be their own boss. They have to say, I expect this out of myself. For me, my goal every year was to get 10 listings, even dating back to 1983 in real estate. My goal was to get 10 listings a month. If I got half that, I was okay. But I had a quota that I expected of myself. You know what I mean? I kept working hard to get that. What kind of advice would you give somebody of when they should start thinking about their sales quota goals?
Well, today's a good time.
There you go.
I brought this along because this is something that sits on my wall in my office, and I think it's important in goal setting. I mean, if you don't have a goal, you're just out there, just out there blind. And so I've always set a goal ever since I've been at least with Omaha Magazine and even before that. And so this little saying sits on my wall in my office: a dream written down with a date becomes a goal broken down into steps becomes a plan backed by action becomes reality.
I love that.
And it's really simple. You have a goal. You break the goal down into certain steps, because in my business and in real estate, particularly in my business, I have to have, ideally it'd be nice to have 3 appointments a day, 5 days a week. And you might sell about a third of that, and you start working towards that goal. It's the same, like you said, in real estate. If you want to have, you have 2 listings, your chance of selling something are maybe 50-50.
Right.
If you have 10 listings, you might have, the odds are going to be higher. So the more appointments you have, the more contacts you make with people. I'm not afraid to, even at my age, 61, and have been here for 14 years, I'm not afraid to walk into an office next to, or a business next to an appointment that I've had, and just drop off a magazine and say, hey, I was calling on your friend next door here, if you're ever interested. Making a cold call, I'm not opposed to doing any of those either. So,
and isn't one of the big goals in accomplishing your sales quotas and your goals is you've got to write it down. I mean, a plan that's not written down to me is just a wish or a fantasy.
Yep.
I mean, you've got to write it down. I think anybody in sales, leadership, marketing, whatever your goal is for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year, if you don't see it in writing, I just think it's going to be more difficult to accomplish. I know everything I've ever set out to do, I stare at it, and I try to live it and be it and absorb it, and failure's not an option. And by looking at this, goal or quota, it's embedded in you.
Yeah, and that's what I said at the very beginning. If you walk in my office, there's a big board with my goal for the year and what we achieved for previous years. Going back 13 years, I have a picture of that board. So anybody, like I said, anybody in the office can come in and take a look and say, okay, and you look at that on day one, and it's not necessarily day one because we're selling all year long. So you had mentioned November, December. That's not feasible in my business. So a lot of what I do maybe this time this year sets myself up for next year, some of the annuals, visitors guides, and things like that. Now we're, I don't want to say the word balls to the wall, but lack of a better term.
That's right.
With Best of Omaha. We have a goal to get that to our subscribers in November. And so there's a lot of action going on with that right now. But a lot of that sets up mine and the other salespeople's years for next year too. So
don't you think one of the keys to being where you are today, and one of the attributes that you have, is you're a good listener? And I think that's one of the worst characteristics of a salesperson that isn't a good listener. I think their careers are going to be a lot tougher. And I know the way you operate, and
part of it is hard of hearing. So I can't understand everything they're telling me. I hear about every other word, and so
I don't believe that. But so, it's in order, all these things have got to come together. But if you're not listening to a client's needs, all the goals and quotas you set for yourself, it won't matter anyway.
No, you're absolutely right. You have to be a good listener. You have to ask good questions, and you have to have the ability to listen to their answers and see if there's an opportunity there. There might be somebody that I talk to and that there isn't an opportunity to do anything with us after you talk to them, or their mind is made up to do something other than print media. And so you have to respect their wishes, do the best you can to give them the information that you have when it's appropriate, after you've listened to them, and don't be afraid to get up and walk out and say, thank you, appreciate your time. And if something changes, let's keep in contact.
Yeah. And see, that right there is probably not the normal. I think a lot of people would probably not take it like you do. And I know we've had several times that you've shown me your advertising, and some stuff I do and some stuff I don't. And, but you've never been the pressure type. You've never been, you haven't
looked at your car outside here, have you? I'm just kidding.
I'm going to let all the airs out of your tires.
I'll tell you, so some of the toughest people to sell something to are your friends, because it's hard to go to a friend and say, hey, I want you to do this and I want you to do that. But if I at least don't give you the information, you don't know that the opportunity is available, then I'm doing a disservice to you, regardless of whether you do anything or not. And a lot of my clients have become friends over the last 14 years. So
Gil, to the people out there that are listening that are struggling, and COVID hasn't been. We're currently in COVID. If you listen to this podcast 10 years from now, hopefully it's gone and we're back to normal. But do you think today that salespeople like ourselves, we need to step it up for one, but is communication like texting or emailing? I know that that's kind of the norm, but isn't it more important today more than ever is to get on the phone so people can hear your voice?
Yes. And don't be afraid of a Zoom call. I mean, I never thought that I would ever be doing Zoom interviews or Zoom appointments. That's one platform. I know there's many others out there. I don't enjoy it as much as a face-to-face meeting. But in these days, you have to do what you have to do, and keeping in contact with your clients and continuing to prospect, because their businesses are not going to turn around until things, it's going to take time for their businesses to turn around, but they have to remind people that they're out there. Yep. And, spending dollars, I'm looking at your time clock there, spending dollars.
52 seconds left, Gil.
No.
Take your time.
Spending money on advertising is a very hard decision. It doesn't matter if it's print, if it's radio, if it's TV, if it's billboards. It's a difficult decision for a lot of people because it's costly. But they have to remember two things: is advertising pays, it doesn't cost. And the other side of it is that a lot of people want to cut what they consider advertising as fat. And the worst thing you want to do during a down economic time is to cut your muscle. And advertising is your muscle, whether you're doing advertising with me or anybody else. That's how you get your name out there. And that's how you encourage people. Because if you're not doing it, your competition is, somebody's going to get the benefit of that.
That's a great answer.
At 0-0.
And so you know what? I have the ability to extend these podcasts as long as I want. Isn't that right, Pat?
That's right.
I'm not going to get in trouble. But Gil, I was really excited to have you on because, like I said, I've always admired how you reach your sales quotas every year. And I know it's not easy. Magazine sales, advertising sales is not the easiest game in town. And you make it look easy because people like doing business with you. But I want to tell you something. One of the takeaways that I hope my audience gets off of this podcast is be honest. Mm-hmm. Don't do the hard sell. Be honest. And make sure that you're aware of your sales quotas. And like you said when you read that, it's got to be written, and you've got to be able to look at it every day. It's got to be something that you can attain. It can't be, you can't make these sales quotas that are so far out there that it's just going to be a disappointment. I recommend whenever I do my goal setting classes for companies is make them reachable. Because once you start reaching your goals, it's going to become where you're so excited every year. Yeah. So don't put your sales quotas and your goals too far out there. Isn't that what you would recommend?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I didn't start with the goal that I have now. I started with a smaller goal and built upon it. And, there's nothing. The best thing about being in sales, as you know, Van, is that, or any salesperson, is that you can give yourself a pay raise every single day.
If you work harder.
If you work hard enough, you can give yourself. It's one of the only businesses, the only industries that you can do that is sales. And so every little bit that you're exceeding your goal or hitting a goal, I find personally, I'm more effective if I've just sold something, because then I'm excited about going out and following up on somebody else and all that. Or, when you get your goal, you're achieving your goals, it just makes you feel a lot better, because in sales, you don't get a lot of pats on the back.
No.
And as you know, in most businesses, 80% of your sales are done by about 20% of your people.
Right.
And so
that's the way real estate is too.
It's pretty much every business.
Every business
is that seems to be that ratio.
So Gil, with all your publications and all the magazines that you are involved in, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you? Is it email? Can you share that with my audience?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They can contact me. It's gil@omahapublications.com. My office number is 402-884-2047. Or they can contact me through omahamagazine.com. I believe there's a link there. My information's on there. I do have to put a quick little plug in for my publisher, Todd Lemke. Todd has owned the magazine
Great
almost
reputation.
40 years now. Yeah. I remember when I first came to Omaha back in the 80s, actually, Todd was the publisher, the distributor, the editor, the ad sales guy. And so he's really grown a great business, not just for Omaha Magazine itself, but for the other publications that we do. We're up to 22 or 23 different publications now that we do, and statewide. This year we worked on a visitor's guide for Western Nebraska, 20 counties out in Western Nebraska. So we've branched out of just the Omaha metro area with what we do. So
you've always talked really highly of Todd, and he's got a great reputation in
Not
Omaha.
to his face.
Yeah.
Only behind his back.
You don't want to give
highly
people
of
a big head, but no, Todd and his family, they got a great reputation,
Yeah,
and which helps you sell and helps you reach your goals because you're with such good people.
Yeah, and we have a great team at the office. We have awesome editors. We have terrific graphic artists, other support personnel, and you can't just be the salespeople out there.
It's got to be a full circle.
It's got to be a full circle, and it's a great organization.
Well, Gilly Boy, I'm so grateful that you were on the podcast today.
Me too. Thanks,
yeah,
man.
And for all of you, please subscribe to my podcast. These are only to help us all get better and accomplish our goals, and my guests hopefully will help you get there also. But please subscribe to this podcast, rate it, and review it. And if you ever need anybody to motivate you or come out and visit with your team, please get a hold of me, Van Deeb. And I'm grateful for you being here today for our podcast and to listen to my good friend Gil Cohen. Have a great day.
A Hurrdat Media Production.